Dear
That was so sexual.
Was it?
That was so sexual. Hello.
It wasn't meant to be, because I was going to go with dear gentle listeners, and I was like, oh, maybe not. Let's scratch it and go hello.
Yes. Okay, sure. Hello.
Welcome to 31 Now.
Welcome back, everyone.
It's been a while since we are just the two of us. Can you tell how awkward this is? I've forgotten how to just do the pod with the two of us.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since we've sat together like this. I think we've had a couple of guests. It's been fun. Although Mel's been on my ass about doing one together, which I think is actually a really good idea.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes. No, I think it's good, right? I think having other people on the pod was really interesting. But we haven't done this, chit chat together for a while, and I think we've got a bit of a heavy topic today.
Yeah. I was going to say it's actually not 3 episodes with guests, because we had one last year at the end of the year where we recorded separately, so it's 4 episodes.
I get that you miss me, Mel.
No, I'm just saying it feels different.
I get it, you miss me. And so we've got a bit of a heavy topic today. And before we get into it, as we usually do, Mel, what are you watching? What are you watching nowadays?
I've watched so many things. Like, I don't know how I did it, but...
I don't know how I did it.
So, there's a couple of things, right? One, if you haven't watched One Day from Netflix, it is so good. It's about basically a love story between 2 different people from 2 different social classes. It's based off the UK. I'm hoping this will gather us more UK listeners. I don't know how it will reach that, but One Day, UK. We love the UK too. God praise the king. But anyway, sorry. Actually, One Day, great show. It's a rom-com. I think it really does. It kind of will speak about the topic that we'll enter into today as well. But great show. And I've also started re-watching, talking about Great Britain, the Bridgerton series. Like I've rewatched.
What season are we on now?
So May 16th, season 3 will come out.
Okay.
So I've watched season 1, 2, and Queen Charlotte's not my favorite, but I think it gives us a really good idea of what happened to Queen Charlotte. So I've finished all 3 of them, and then lastly, I've watched Aang the Last Airbender series.
I've hesitated.
It's good.
Is it better than the animation? You better say no.
No. The
Okay.
animation.
Woo!
So I also rewatched the animation. So that's my 4th thing.
How much time do you have?
I was sick. At one point, I was really sick, and I watched everything on my TV.
Right.
Like, that's it. But the Last Airbender series, I think you need to support, the great actors. They're young. Some of them are young kids. But they're so much better casted than the movie one. The movie one was shit, let's be honest. Like, the movie one was shit.
I don't think I finished the movie.
I didn't even watch it because it was all white people. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
But it was done really well, and obviously you get a good sense of what culture they're meant to represent, right? Like Earth Kingdom, obviously China.
I haven't watched it. Sure.
Now, when you rewatch the cartoon.
So what's Fire Nation?
Fire Nation, I think, was meant to be Japan.
Oh.
Yeah, but Earth Kingdom.
Land of the Rising Sun.
Yeah. But, Earth Kingdom's meant to be China because what's interesting? If you rewatch the cartoon, they had this king that was not useful, and he had a bear as a pet. This is Aang the Last Airbender cartoon, right? He had a bear as a pet, and it really reminded me of the last emperor of China. The one where he had to deal with the Opium Wars. Obviously,
Yep.
China got took away by Great Britain, talking about UK stuff. But it really reflected to me potentially the incompetence of the last emperor of China.
So who then? Okay, so there's four nations,
4
right?
nations.
Okay, so Earth and Fire.
Earth, Fire, Air is obviously like Tibet.
Okay, obviously.
Obviously, it's obvious. And then
So obvious.
It's so obvious. Monks and everything. And then
Yes.
Water Tribe is meant to represent like the Inuits. Because it's all about living in the North and South Pole. They, when you look at the live action, you'll see that faces reflect people that look, basically half Asian in a way. So it does reflect how potentially like from what I can see online, how Inuit people might look like. And it's their sort of relationship with water and the ice and nature. So yeah, I am hesitating to watch Korra again, Legend of Korra, because I think it's a bit deeper. It's a bit more.
That's Korra from Aang, the Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Yes, and she's the waterbender.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
But it's a more adult version, and I remember it was just more complicated. And sometimes like the world is so, like your life is so tough. I don't need anything too complicated in my TV scene. Anyway, that's what I'm watching.
So which one of those 4, because you've had a lot of time, would you watch? Would you recommend people to watch first?
I depends. Are you a romantic person at heart?
Are you a romantic person at heart?
Like if you love a good bittersweet romance, one day, like I can't talk about it anymore. Like I think you'll sit there and you'll think about it.
Okay.
But if you are a supporter of Asian representation and Asian stories, then Aang the Last Airbender live series. And then if you love like a little scandal, a little girl porn, maybe Bridgerton is great.
This is why I've never watched Bridgerton.
You don't want girl porn?
I mean, like, I don't, it doesn't seem like I'll resonate with the show.
Well,
I mean, my show. So I've been watching Bodyguard.
Oh, I don't actually know what Bodyguard is.
So Bodyguard, yeah, I think it was released in 2022. It's on Netflix. It's still on Netflix as we record this today. I'm surprised I haven't watched it. People have said it's a good show. It is about a bodyguard, in case you haven't guessed.
Oh.
So it's based out of the UK, somewhere in the UK. It's about
the UK,
yes,
UK
more
listeners.
and more prominent. It's happening again. So it's about a bodyguard. No, so it's about a gentleman who, and this is all I assume in the trailer, but he stopped a bombing, and then he went on to become a bodyguard for one of the ministers, and it follows that story, and it's actually quite complex. So complex that in the last episode I went, "What the fuck is happening?"
Okay, but in a good way?
Like in a good way.
Okay. Is that the guy that looks like the who's the actor? Is it someone called Rami Malek? Is that one?
No, Rami Malek is the one with the big eyes.
Yes.
He did what
did,
was that hacking show? Like he was a hacker in one of the
yeah,
shows.
I know what you're talking about.
Whatever that is.
I can't remember, but he also
But not
played.
him.
But yeah, not him.
Not him. No. Although
Okay.
this actor is just as equally intense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Good show. Recommend it. I watched it over 3 or 4 days. Like it's not like a lot of episodes or anything. But yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Action base.
Action based.
Okay, so now we basically have a range. You want girl porn, Bridgerton. You want Asian representation, Aang the Last Airbender, some action, Bodyguard, and you want some good romance. Like, like it's hard to make a good rom-com. Good rom-com one day. There you go. You're welcome.
And I want to know, if you do watch any of these, tell us whether we're wrong. You might not actually like these. We might be way off with what people should be watching in their 30s.
Nah, I'm pretty confident with my choices. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty confident.
I don't know about Bridgerton. Oh. Well, yes.
But yes.
So that's what we've been watching. What we've been thinking about is probably a bit heavier. So topic today, look, there's a reason why we're sitting on the floor today.
You can see Arian's feet.
Oh, can you?
In case anyone wants to buy his feet pics.
We might need to cut that out a little bit.
Do
Maybe
we?
just here. We'll figure this one out.
But we need like.
Little did I know that was happening.
I was like looking at the video so you can see feet. I've covered mine a little bit.
Yes. No. So today, look, it's a bit of a heavy topic, and so I've reflected on this a lot over the past couple of years, and I suspect more and more people in our age group are thinking the same. And it's the topic of death. And we won't dive right into it, but it's the topic of death and our thoughts around it, how people are reacting around it, how they're coping. And funnily enough, for me, a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, as of recording, I did a full medical health check. So, did you know there are ranges of packages for this?
No.
So you can do a basic health check, then you can do I think it's called the executive in Malaysia, the executive health check.
Oh, this was done in Malaysia.
And then yes, and then you can do more. You can do more and more stuff, right? You do it in a private hospital, so there's packages and things like that. So anyway, so I went through one of those health checks where they attach the nodes to your chest, and then you do the stress test. So you run on the treadmill, ultrasounds, X-rays, blood tests, all the sorts of things. I did it because I've never done one before.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I had anything that warranted me needing to do it either. I chose to do it because it's probably a good baseline for me. Like I'm not the healthiest I've ever been, but I'm not unhealthy. And so you do this test now and you try and do it annually. And the reason I say it's funnily enough that we're talking about this topic now is because in our 30s, I'm kind of, again, that's the baseline for health as you get older.
Yeah. But this, whatever you just mentioned, just reminds me of, the show that Simone from episode 9?
Oh,
9?
Testing my memory.
Yep, recommended us, Limitless by Chris Hemsworth. And I think he did do one of the tests where he attached things onto his body and they were measuring maybe his VO2 max. Something like that. So I'm not sure whether that's similar or whether it's just a similar way of measuring different things.
Could be similar. I mean, I think the stress test measures the strength of your heart and whether there's any variability in your heart. They also do an ECG and look, admittedly, the Apple Watch can now do it all for you.
Oh yeah.
It is not a medical device.
Yep.
And they are very clear about that. But the watch measures your heart rate, you can do an ECG, measures
What's
your
an ECG?
electrocardiogram. So
okay.
it checks whether there's variability in your heart rate, I think. So it can indicate the possibility of a heart attack.
Yep. I've heard that it helps people sometimes. Yeah.
I don't know. Look, in fairness, I do it every once in a while. You're really stressed at work, your heart's kind of beating, you're like, oh, this feels a bit strange. You do it just to check.
Maybe it's the copious amount of coffee that you drank, but
a lot of coffee at work.
Yeah.
Yes, that will not help me live a longer life, I think. Don't answer that.
But it's interesting, right? I didn't know you were taking these tests until today, but it's funny. I even from my end, I had to do a pap smear as a woman of age, and they did notice once that I had a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, they noticed I had irregular cells, and I've had it for a couple years by then, like a year or two. So they had to monitor me, and at that point I was so scared. I remember I was in my work office and I was just thinking about, I'm like, am I gonna die? And at that point, you could call your doctor as part of telehealth. So I called my Korean doctor. I was like, am I gonna die? So my Korean doctor is very blunt. I'll make mention of him a couple more times in the future for various other topics. But I called my Korean doctor. I was like, oh, am I going to die? I'm really, really scared. And he's like, oh, don't be scared. Oh, this happens to people all the time. You'll be fine. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay.
don't WebMD it.
But yeah, so I think that was the moment where I was like, oh, this is why people do health checks. Prior to that pap smear, I think I haven't gotten a pap smear for 5-6 years. Because people don't, unless you live with your family members sometimes, you're not reminded to do these various health checks. But yeah, so everything was good with you?
Look, part and parcel of getting older is you'll find things that you probably never knew you needed to know about yourself and your health. Everything's fine, but as you get older, those sort of tests become more relevant. And I feel like we never thought about it as kids, right? My dad started doing these sorts of health checks when he was 36, thereabouts, and he's done one every year since, every single year without fail. It just becomes part of your routine, which I think is important, right? To make sure you do these things because it's preventative.
Yep.
Wait, no, it's detective. Hold on.
Measurative.
One or the other.
Primitive.
No, so it's preventative, right? Because you'll catch things early as you go along. So no, look, everything's fine, but as we get older, and definitely as I got older, you start to think about death more, in the sense that death becomes a certainty in life. I'm not sure what you, at what point unless you haven't gone there, Mel, but at what point do you, at what point did you realize that, death is a part of life?
Interesting. I don't know. I think when we were talking about the sort of different topics that we can discuss between the two of us, I felt that death was quite a good topic to come back to, just because I don't know about you, but I think recently in my 30s I've noticed that death is happening a lot more, whether it's I feel like people are experiencing loss more, whether it's your own family members, you've experienced it through friends and families and such. And for some reason, I know there was lots of loss that occurred during COVID, but it was never a thing. I think when you have loss that happened during that sort of period where everyone was experiencing loss, it feels more desensitized. So I didn't really think much of it then. I did have an older uncle that passed away. Wasn't sure whether it was through COVID or just because he was an older gentleman. But, we didn't really think too much of it. Whereas now that life, at least in Melbourne, is kind of back to normal. And I guess in the world, they're back to normal as well. It feels like the impact of death is more prevalent, in your face. I feel it more.
I think it's just age.
Is it? Maybe.
I think it's age.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think I certainly am more conscious of loss around us. But I mean, I think it's just part and parcel of getting older and becoming an adult, right? These things happen around you, which is very unfortunate. Whether that's family, friends, pets. Again, pets are very important in life, right? So, no, tough. When was the first time you can remember experiencing what death felt like?
We had this conversation. I think, even though I have a grandma, I have a grandma that passed away when I was 5, and my parents have always told me you were close to your grandma loved you loved your grandma, you cried then. I don't have that memory in my head.
Oh.
I remember the funeral. Whoops! Sorry. I remember the funeral. My earring fell. I remember there was actually this is a really funny thing. I remember how mom and dad told me, my grandma's coffin was in my house, and my mom told me, do not let any cats near the coffin, because if they jump onto the body, it will come back alive. I don't know why that was a strong memory in my head. And I remember the rituals, we had to wear white and black, or white, blue, black. I had to wear a ribbon when I went to school, but I don't remember the feeling of sadness. And then if I was thinking about it, I was thinking how potentially the first real impact, the first time I really truly felt what death meant was maybe my dog passed away last year. And I'm really sad about it. I have a picture of my dog on my phone, and I was devastated. My parents told me that my dog, her name's Honey, passed away before I went back to Malaysia. And I don't know whether you've had this feeling where you come into your house and you notice that something's missing. You're something's missing. And I was really sad. I cried. And I've had plenty pets that passed away. People think I'm really cruel. I think I have 8 pets that passed away, but that's because in Malaysia, pets. Let me come back to it. In Malaysia, pets are outside dogs. They don't go into your house. They don't sleep on your bed. I've had pets who died because they were hit by a car. Another pet gnawed them to death. It's a bit dark, but there was a fight. Another pet accidentally ate bones, so it poked through his. I've had plenty of pets that died, but this was the one pet I was really sad about.
How old?
I think she was really young. She was really old.
Yeah, it's probably why.
Maybe. I think I've had her since I was 15, which is ridiculous. I don't know if that's real, because that meant that she's...
How does it work? You've been here since you were 15.
Exactly. So no, so I think I had her a little bit before I left, and so every time I return, like, she's there. But that also means that she's 17 years old, which I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm not sure.
I don't know how long dogs live.
But I don't spend that much time with her. But anyway, so that's a really long story of that.
That actually, sorry, just that last point you made. Something you said, I didn't actually spend a lot of time with her, but you still were very much impacted by the loss.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me, right? Because, and so we actually didn't talk about this before, Mel, but that does mean, I know we're talking about pets and humans are obviously a whole different level here, but just in general, right? You don't have to physically be with them or be very close to them to feel the loss.
But then I also wonder if it's because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye.
True. I've thought about this, and does it make it easier if you have the opportunity to say goodbye? I think yes.
I think so.
I think yes. The difficulty is prolonging the inevitable, which is tough. But being able to say goodbye both ways, I think gives closure rather than a sudden death.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like, you know, I was reflecting on this year, you know, my grandma passed a couple months ago, but we all expected it at some point that it's going to happen. So each time we went back to Indo, we hang out with her, kind of making sure that when she is not being mad at me for being a 30-year-old woman that's unmarried and asking me to hurry up and get married in the midst of all those, you know, comments. You're hoping that you spend more time with her, but whenever you leave, there's always something at the back of your head that you're like, maybe this might be her last chance, your last chance to see her. So when she finally passed, it was a month after we saw her, and I feel like we have said goodbye, even though we didn't actually say goodbye. We weren't there during her last breath. But with my dog, when I left, I didn't think it was the last time I saw her. Like, I still loved her, I still treated her the same, probably the exact same, but I didn't think that that's it. For me, that was probably, maybe that's why this could sound so shitty of me. I felt like that hurt more. Yeah, I feel like I'm a shitty human being.
I wouldn't say you are. I mean, again, people experience loss differently for different people and different reasons, right? I mean, this all kind of plays back to a lot of the things we talk about on this podcast, which is make use of the time that you've got. You know, I mean, we've driven this point home a little bit on a lot of our episodes around, you know, you're not getting any younger. We're not old. If you're in your 30s, you're not old. Relax. You're not old. Despite what people tell you, just don't talk to the Gen Zers. But you're getting older, right? So make the best use of your time. If you're out with someone, cherish it. This is going to sound really corny of me, but actually, right? Be present. Be there. Don't be absent. Don't try and be elsewhere. Don't try and do a million things at once, because when you say goodbye, as you say, it might be the last time you see them you never know. You never know. Right? So make use of it, right?
Yeah. I feel like, I feel like we've hammered on, well, at least I feel like I've given you a brief rundown of probably my experience with death, whether it's just be with pets or with family members. What's your experience so far? Like, I feel like you've definitely got this more relaxed, accepting vibe of death. Like
Zen, you know?
Yeah, but...
Zen. Just... No, no, it's... this would have been a few years ago now, actually. It's not even recent, but a couple years ago, I accepted that, and as I said earlier, that death is an inevitability. Death is a part of life, and I think it's important. It's important that we remember that. I think when we're young, whether you're in your when you're a kid, we tend to be sheltered from that a little bit, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't think about it.
Well, yes. Although, funnily enough, now it's everywhere. People play games. It's just very strict. I don't know how kids grow up in that environment, right? Mm-hmm. But as we were growing up, we were probably a bit more sheltered from that. In your teenage years as well, in your 20s, you feel like you can do anything. You can go anywhere. You can, jump off a cliff, which I do want to do actually.
Huh?
So why not? But then, as you reach your 30s, you start to realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing such silly things. Or take more calculated risks. Don't do stupid stuff anymore.
But what for? What are you afraid of? Is it for yourself, for your family? I'm curious, are you trying to be more careful for whom?
Well, actually, I think it's just as you get older and you see the world more, you become more risk averse. I actually think that's what it is. So, because when we were kids, or teenagers, or maybe early 20s, you're more oblivious to the impact of things that you do. Mm-hmm. So say for example, actually it's a good example of loss, and if you've lost somebody in your life, when you do something that is akin to maybe what happened to that person, you might say, maybe I shouldn't, because you've been on the other side of that.
Yeah.
So you do less silly things. One, it's probably safer for you, but also you're more conscious of the impact that will have on other people. So yes, it's partly for me to live a longer life, but also on other people, because you don't want to put other people through that grief. Right? So don't go and do stupid things, everyone.
Think about your parents, maybe. That's what I think about.
Actually, yes, think about your parents.
Think about your parents.
I want to know yours, but I there's probably two things. So one is the first time I remember experiencing loss, which is actually a long time ago. I was 9 years old, actually. So I had a friend at the time who was unwell and had to go to the hospital for surgery and didn't make it, unfortunately. And I remember that very vividly because we were friends, right? I think I was 9. And it's tough as a 9-year-old because you don't understand it. Like you don't fully understand what happened. It's just one day they were there, the next day they were not.
Especially someone your age.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's tough, and that was tough. But I think it's tougher as an adult because as a kid, you don't know what to process. You don't know how to react.
Yeah.
And you're a kid, right? There's so many things happening around you. So over time, you accept and you move on. But yes, that was my first experience of true loss that I can remember. And very unfortunately, there were more between then and now. But the other thing that I'm interested to share is the first time that I feared dying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Melly, if you've ever been close to death, which is, it's funny. People sometimes say they had I think Annie said she had a...
No. And yeah, so Annie from episode 11, she had basically a near-death experience if no one else took her out of the fire. She could have been blind.
I don't want to ask her about it in the episode, but...
Yeah, no.
Wow, okay.
It was a harrowing experience. Like, she had, what's the bad, like 4th degree burn is probably quite bad, right? Is that the category?
3rd degree burns.
3rd degree burn?
I don't know how many degrees there are to burns.
But because she closed her eyes, she wasn't blind.
Oh, wow.
She opened her eyes and she stayed in there for longer. Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have, but fortunately I have not been in that sort of position. But there was this one time we were driving down the mountain, we were snowboarding, and again, chains on, driving safely within the speed limit, very icy. It was a blizzard weekend. I remember driving down the mountain and it was a sharp turn, but we were going at the right speed and the car just decided to do a full spin as we went over the turn.
Yeah.
And there's what they call a chain bay just to the side, and we slid into the chain bay. And if that chain bay was not there, we would have gone right off the mountain.
And how tall was the mountain? Like, how tall were you from the ground at the point?
We would not be 100% we would not survive.
Shit.
100% we would die. And the only thing I remember, again, it probably in reality wasn't very long. It was probably a 3-second spin.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember was somebody in the back seat saying, "Don't brake."
Oh.
That was the only thing I remember from that whole experience. People in the back seat were saying, "Life flashed before." And look, in fairness, like it was really scary.
Yeah.
And mind you, we still had to drive down.
Yeah.
We still had to get
you have
down.
to look death in the face again. Essentially, yeah.
I tell that story a lot, but it's actually really scary.
Wait, so did anyone say don't brake, or do you
No,
think that's your subconscious?
Somebody at the back said, "Don't brake."
Okay.
Yeah, it was scary.
Damn.
So for any of you going up snowboarding in any part of the world and you have to use chains or drive a 4-wheel drive, whatever it is, drive slow.
Yeah.
Because I've been there and it is fucking scary.
Did that change how you saw the world? Like, did that impact you or your friends in any particular way?
Not that experience. I wouldn't say that experience changed the way we view life. It's not like after that day I'm going to live my life and live it to the fullest. No. Not that particular event, but it builds. All these things, all these experiences that I've had from a young age, and then 9-year-old and every sort of unfortunate event or loss that I've experienced in my past leading to that point, and now in our 30s, I shouldn't say staring death in the face because that's a bit intense.
We're also not that old yet.
Right, exactly.
Not that old.
But we're more conscious of it. Does make me make more conscious choices of who I spend my time with, what I want to do. And actually this very timely, past couple of months, what are we now, April-ish in 2024, I've been thinking about life priorities, and that's I've mentioned many times that I've got those 5 things that I can focus on in 5 things that I find important in life, and I'm having a bit of a rebalance of that now. So I mean, we'll see what happens over the next couple of months, but focusing on the things that are important to me and having the thought that death is an inevitability kind of drives some of that. Again, we're not old, but we're not getting younger.
We're not.
We're getting younger.
That's interesting, because I feel I think similar to you, I've also had like a near-death experience, but I think I don't know whether that did impact the way I saw my life either. But I also feel like I see when it comes to me, unless it's a health-related risk, near-death experience, I kind of see it as like it's a different category altogether. Like, for example, every time there is a turbulence on the plane, I'm like, I'm not very religious, but I'm a cultural Buddhist, and so Mom gives me a chant to chant whenever I am I fear death. So whenever there's a turbulence, I will do my Buddhist chants. Once, similar to you, I was in India, so a lot of my near-death stories happen in India. When I was coming down a mountain as well, that it was one lane and 2 cars can go, like it's a 2-way lane, but it's basically 1 lane essentially. As the driver was speed racing down, I was doing my chants. But that's just because I fear it. But the biggest thing that happened to me in India that made me think, ooh, I could almost die, was I was on my own, and I was at a tea shop. And I was telling the tea shop owner, I'm going to go up to the waterfall. He's like, let me take you up. At that point, I was 21, and he looked like he was like 36, mid-30s. And so it was just me and him going up the waterfall. And then it was quite slippery because it was monsoon season. And we decided to take a break halfway through. I sat on this boulder. I took a picture with this boulder. It's on my Insta. And then we're like, all right, let's continue going upwards. As we were walking up, we heard thunder. And then we realized it started raining. And so like, shit, we have to go down. We kind of like raced down. 5 minutes later, this was 5 minutes before my break. After like my break, where I took a picture and such. As we raced down, I saw where I sat a boulder that came crashing down. And like, if I had been sitting there, or if we were near there and we didn't notice the boulder was crashing down, it could have been a mishap. And I remember that tea shop owner was like, oh, luckily we weren't there. And then we proceeded to come down. And I think I remember at that point my heart was like beating like crazy. But I think the moral of that story when I came out with it was like, yeah, don't do anything stupid, not seize the day, but more like, you can seize the day, but maybe do it in a safer way, because A, you were with a stranger on your own as a 21-year-old girl, had no reception, and then B, should have realized it was monsoon season, so maybe not climb the waterfall.
Carpe diem, but carpe diem safely.
Yeah.
Wait, so hold on. So did you make it to the waterfall?
No, because it started monsooning. Sorry, it's not monsooning. It started raining. And then I was already like scared for my life. And the tea shop owner also scrammed. He's like, all right, okay, bye. He was so nice prior. And then he went away. I
don't want to be responsible for this tourist's death.
That's what I think he was thinking. But yeah. So that's probably my... Other than that, I don't think there's a lot of near-death experience. Unlike my brother, who always goes on ledges to take photos and such. Whenever he's around my parents and he does that, my mom is like, oh, I have a heart attack. I don't do those things. I'm happy to take a less aesthetic photo to be safe.
I can't believe you stopped to take a photo.
It's not even that great of a photo. You can see it on my Insta. I'll show you.
I'm gonna have to go and find it after we record. I'm very curious. If we can post a link or a snippet of that photo up, I'm really curious to know what it looks like. We should make it the thumbnail for this episode. I think that'd be great. We should do that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. I think that's my experience.
So I'd be interested to know from our listeners whether you've experienced a near-death experience. Share with us. Let us know. You know where to find us on socials, because interestingly enough, what I want to know is how people react
to near-death experiences.
To death
in general, yeah.
In this day and age.
Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting to see, like, it's a topic that I think we can continue talking to, like, when we're in our 40s or 50s, right? Because in a way, I think 30s might be the start of, for a lot of people, of like how they navigate through death. Because I think for me, my perspective is, this is the year where I feel like lots of people have mourned grieved the loss of their grandparents. And then that makes me think at some point a lot of people will start, or if they already started, mourning the loss of their parents. And you can see that, right? When you go on Facebook or Insta, you'll see lots of people put up, like, if you're based in Malaysia, people put up obituaries of their grandparents or whatnot. But then if you look at Insta, I feel like a lot more people will put up videos and photos of their lost one, like the loved ones. It gives you a good sense of who are people mourning for during our age and time, and actually, interestingly enough, how they mourn for them. Like, I never really thought posting would be part of the repertoire for mourning, would be part of the ritual for mourning. But maybe it is now in this day and age.
Maybe it's the new obituary.
Maybe.
Maybe it's a collective obituary. So I haven't fully understood. And again, people mourn differently. Nobody's going to judge you for mourning a certain way, right? But you're posting. I do see people post on social media. I sometimes see people don't. They remain quiet.
Yeah.
Do you externalize it, or do you internalize it?
Yeah, I think, like, I agree. I think sometimes it's interesting to see whether you are made to feel like you need to do anything. Like, when when my grandma passed, I felt the need to post something. Like when my uncle did, like it's because I'm not so close to him, and I feel like no one really mourn the loss of uncles and aunts unless you're really close, right? I didn't post anything. I felt like maybe society expects you to mourn the death of your family via something, and so I did post an Insta story for it. But would I have done it without feeling forced? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if society compels people to do that. I can see a big reason as to why we should post. I mean, if there's been a passing, the way to get the message out to people that care for them, that maybe are not in contact with them anymore. So you were sharing an example around somebody who maybe we just haven't heard from for a long time, and we don't know. You don't know, right? If there's been a post about it, then you know.
Yeah.
So is that a form of messaging in the new world that we don't do it because no one reads newspapers anymore?
Yeah, but
right?
Do they still do that? They still, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do. Or is it part of the coping mechanism? Is it part of somebody's way to say goodbye? Because I can see that too. I can see that too. It's closure. It's closure, and social media is the new world, right? And so for a lot of people, maybe that's closure.
Probably, yeah. I agree. I think like if I were to pass at some point in my life, regardless, I would.
It's an inevitability.
Sorry, so not some point in my life. When I pass, hopefully not too soon is what I'm thinking. I think you do need to have that bit of closure. I feel like in an example, like the example that was discussed probably prior to the recording of this episode, a friend of mine I haven't spoken to for a while, but we had a great relationship prior to her moving to interstate. I heard a rumor at some point that she's passed, and then I found myself every year, when Facebook shows you that it's that person's birthday, when it popped up, oh, it's her birthday again, I will go onto her Facebook and I'm like, has she posted? I message her on her birthday every once in a while and didn't get any response, and I think I jumped into her LinkedIn this afternoon just to see whether I missed something, like that she's not just ignoring me, and it feels, she hasn't responded, and I think deep down in my heart I feel like she has passed, but it feels unfinished. And I think personally, if I plan everything well, I think I would love to ensure that people feel like they had at least some closure with their relationship to me. Otherwise, it's a really bad feeling to feel like things are unfinished between you and a person.
I wonder how. So in that situation, actually, social media is a very interesting space, because when you pass, and I don't know the laws around this, you probably know better than me, and I know we did some reading before we came on, but when you pass, who owns your social media account?
I think honestly, you probably have to give someone your password, because Facebook isn't gonna, Facebook.
They'll never let you in.
Not that they'll let you in, but like you yourself will have to give your family members your password, because they need your consent to delete a profile, right? Even if so unless, I think you mentioned maybe Insta, there is a way that I think somehow you can make it your profile like in memory of someone.
So apparently you can report or share with Instagram passing, and they'll change the profile a little bit. Now, I've never seen it, nor do I know how it works. But yeah, I can see your point, right? Because then you yourself are seeking closure that you can't get.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
And I think it's a human thing. There was a YouTube cook, this old Asian lady, I can't remember her name. It's like Leanna Cook or something like that. She's this really great personality, and when she had cancer as well, they had to put a message out, because otherwise, otherwise her followers would be thinking about it. And even after, now that she's passed, when people look through her old videos, they will always be like, this video brings me such joy. I think, and they comment about how sad they are that they lost such a great personality. I think this is like one way for people to cope, because the unknown sucks for humans. Like if you feel like you don't know how things end, like, it's not like, it's just like when you're watching a great TV show and they don't give you an ending to it. You're like, this sucks, but in a more impactful manner when it comes to someone's life.
We don't like things that are not within our control.
No.
So then so I suppose just to round out, what are you doing? What are we doing? What are we all doing in your 30s to cope better with this inevitability and to process better, or I'll give you two options here. Or what are you doing to live longer and at some point give your friends and family the closure when that time does come?
I think ever since my grandma passed, I feel like I've made a more conscious effort to chat to my mom and dad, or they chat to me. I think when it's your parent, when death is like, when family members die, I feel like the thing you think most is, how can I spend more time with my parents or my brother or my loved one, all that. I think that's my main thing, because as we've discussed in our episodes, both of us are quite a health conscious bunch as is. Like the fact that we exercise, now you're doing your medical checks as well. There's just a lot of things that I think we put in place to ensure that we live a good life. And even, there are lots of experiences that we're like going out now, like you doing your triathlon, me doing like other stuff. Like we're trying to make the most out of our time as is. So the one thing that I haven't done as much is probably to build a better relationship with my parents, just because they've been away for so long. I've learned how to be an independent person here on my own.
With your brother?
With my brother.
Very codependent. Just saying.
Yes. But yeah, I think that's kind of the missing piece for me. That's the thing that's most conscious in my mind right now.
And what are you doing to get there?
Well, I try chatting to my mom and dad often, but so sorry, interesting enough, it's a topic for another day, but I went through this process of realizing that my parents are humans and are also potentially a little bit emotionally immature, which has led me onto a different like a path of some sort. I'll talk about it more in the future, but I've tried calling my dad quite often, like more often recently, because my mom was in Indo dealing with my grandma's funeral things, and my brother was in Japan with his gal, so dad was on his own and I was here. So I'll call my dad more often, check in, chat to him, and you know what that was? That's sort of, you know what he said to me? He was like, when is your brother coming back from Japan? I was like, oh, in a couple days time. He's like, oh, okay, good. Because it seems like you're quite lonely, yeah? You've been calling me nonstop. Like, I'm sure once your brother's back, like, you'll be less lonely. I was like, Dad, I knew that mom was away. I knew you were on your own. I wanted to spend more time with you.
It'll happen naturally. Did you share bird photos with your dad?
No, I didn't. But I shared other stuff. But I just called him, just like, sup, you eating well? And he's, I have no words. I really have no words.
Don't let that deter you.
It's not, but it just made me think. It's either your parents are like being, oh, I'm so macho, I don't need your love and attention, I'm doing fine, or they don't understand that that's my way of.
But I mean that's a very Asian parent thing though. It's a very Asian parent thing, and also when you're not used to it.
Yeah, I know.
Get your brother to do it.
No, my brother's even worse at this. I think So anyway, for a future topic, relationships, parents, something. I think this whole topic has actually made me realize I need to do something more with my parents. That's me. What about you? Any musings, changes to your life? What are you doing now that you know that death is looking at your face at every point in time?
Well, I suppose the difference between you and me is I've probably come to that realization many years ago.
Oh, okay.
Being more and again, we've spoken about this many times, right? But being more present. I don't want to look back on my life and say I wasted so much time with the people that I care about. And that's family, that's friends, my nephews, my brother, my sister, Mel. Make the best of the time that you've got, right? Because you don't know how much longer you have to live. And so doing things like the health check is important, right?
Yeah.
Get a bit of a baseline. I'm not saying everybody go out and do that right now. We're still young. You don't have to. If you have a scare, maybe it starts that process. But if it's within your means and you feel like you want to have a good baseline, you understand these sorts of things, do it. There's no harm in doing it or doing it. Do it with an open mind, because you don't know what's gonna come out of it, right?
Yeah.
But do these sorts of things. That's what I'm doing in my 30s. Being more conscious of my health, about the decisions that I make. Whether that's doing something silly like still trying to run a marathon because I signed up but I still couldn't get in.
That is nothing silly. You are running, and as Limitless has said, cardio exercises are good for you.
Okay, but both my knees hurt already.
Okay, that is your problem.
So just being more conscious of where you spend your time, I think, and so I had this thing, and Mel, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. You know what I'm scared the most?
What?
When I think about dying?
What?
Is to not be remembered.
Oh, so interesting. So it's when I was looking into what to talk about when we talk about death, legacy comes up quite big.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, I think when I've had conversations with people about it, legacy is a very male-driven need.
Like a you-driven need?
Sorry, not male, but male-driven need.
Male-driven need.
Like a lot of guys think about leaving legacies, and that happens with family, right? Your lineage. It happens with companies, and I guess and I guess in other forms as well. But to me, a lot of people that I've met, a lot of females don't use legacy as a thing. It's obviously very, very non-research, just from conversations with friends.
I want to pick that up on a different episode.
Yeah, okay.
Because for me, it's so legacy is one way that we think about it, but really for me, it's when I'm gone, will my friends and family remember me as a good person? I'm not trying to leave a name on a building. It would be nice. But that's what I think about when I think about legacy. I'm thinking more, did I touch the people, the important people in my life so that they remember me?
Yeah.
In a positive way when I'm gone. And that's what actually scares me the most.
You know what that will help? What book will help you with that? You know the whole subtle ways of not giving a fuck?
Yes.
They mention when you die, people don't remember you.
People don't remember you. And they don't, right? And as well, you need to be conscious of that, that you will leave such a small footprint on the planet that the people that will remember you will be the people that are closest to you.
Yeah.
Nobody else cares. They will mourn you, but they also have their own lives. So, and this is why having this close circle of people around you, your friends, your family, your parents, and your siblings, their kids, keeping that circle close, keeping the relationships healthy is so important to me. So you heard it here first. Call your parents.
Call your parents. Do your health checks.
No, it's been good. Look, I think it's been a bit of a heavy topic.
Talking about it itself is a lesson, potentially.
Being able to vocalize the topic is maturity.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. And I think, in a couple years' time, this topic can be discussed in a totally different manner. By then we will have more experience. If you have our own kids, I think
it will completely change your perspective, I'm sure.
mm,
So yeah, I mean, to our listeners, again, keen to know your experiences with near-death experiences. Let us know on socials. And until next time.
see ya.
Bye.